Today, then, it's going to be something else. Random once more, as usual. I think I haven't done a similar film since the last one I actually commented on. I mean, I've seen others within this genre, but not commented. Yeah, the last one was about Tommy Zona, I think. So yeah, it's about some sort of sportsman. It's just random mainly. I do not go into this genre very readily. I do not really enjoy it, but all genres have some sort of something to get out of, possibly. You know, I mean, even westerns have like 5 minutes of something interesting. But yeah, not very long. Anyway, yeah, I'm also not going to do much horror for now anymore because, as it happens, I don't know, it just feels weird with the current global situation, as in, um, I mean, we watch movies to reflect our mental state, right? But also to sort of change the world through our perception. But currently, the world, regardless of perception, is quite horrific in a way in terms of the pandemic. So, yeah, I don't know. Just doesn't feel like watching horror, adding to the horror of news and such is really. Um, I mean, I'm not going. I'm probably not going to go all out for now, at least, and watch, um, you know, movies for toddlers or something. I don't mind children's movies, but anything more mind-numbing than that. What's the most mind-numbing? I don't know. Um, there's a lot in the comedy genre, of course. There is mind-numbing, and although comedy is quite a broad spectrum. I mean, I could watch a comedy, but anyway, yeah. So I am going to watch at any rate Foxcatcher. I have no idea why it's called Fox. I mean, it's supposed to be about a boxer, apparently. No, wrestler. Um, as I said, I know virtually nothing about the sport or about similar sports, which is why I get them confused. And well, anyway, let's begin it. It's 2 hours long, which is a bit sort of annoying, I guess, instead of being I'm not incredibly interested in the topic in the first place. But I don't mind. I mean, it's quite something when the last film was no, that's not a tale I'm terribly interested in, but visually it was presented fine, really, mostly. It's quite weird. It seems like the public didn't like that, but critics did. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this is just a drama in comparison, apparently based on real life. So I doubt we'll have talking giant stone monsters. Um, who apparently were the progenitors of the Niflheim. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to begin this thing here. It's kind of funny that I know so little about this sport, really, so little. I had never even seen that mannequin thing that they train with. I mean, I've you know, it's the punching bag is obviously much more popular than that thing. Like it looks bizarre, to be fair, doesn't it? Maybe that's why it's not known. It looks like uh, you know, uh, uh, yeah. Also, I still have no idea what Foxcatcher refers to. I'm hoping so. This has nothing to do with fox hunting. Apparently, though, it might refer to a horse, so I still have no clue how it's related to wrestling though, unless she's going to wrestle a horse. No, hope not. Yeah. And that's quite a lot of training. Yeah, there was training. I mean, some of it was real. Yeah, that took quite. I mean, so far it seems like there's been more where nothing was said, mostly anyway. And he's either eating or training. I suppose this is why I don't really like this. Obviously, they can do you know many things. They can either focus on their lives or so far there's been quite a lot focusing on the sport itself or eating for some reason. But occasionally it's not sensible to do so. But he ate twice in quick succession. Of course, I suppose sports people need to eat more. But, I don't know. Is this supposed to be a documentary? Anyway, uh, I've always thought that boxing was the most violent sport, and but, I mean this can still be violent. Even though training, one of them started to bleed. But this is certainly the most physical, hands-on sport. I mean, I cannot think of anything else that is more close. In fact, it would be the worst sport in a pandemic, I suppose. I mean, yeah. Uh, I'm surprised I haven't heard of more wrestlers getting infected with it. They're very, very close, and there's nothing, in comparison, golf is nothing. They don't even touch each other whatsoever. They barely touch the same ball. Well, they can theoretically not hit the same ball. So anyway, yeah, but this is incredible. Boxing, I guess, has it does have some holds and such, but mostly, when punching, it's a bit. This is much more. This is mostly holds. Yeah, they are quite similar, aren't they? I think boxing, though, is still the most violent. I mean, never heard of a wrestler die, but there was a boxer recently who died. Of course, not older, but it's quite violent. They can go into a concussion very easily. Yeah, and by the way, I honestly don't know what he was trying to do in the mirror there. Was he trying to destroy his facial bone structure or something? It's yeah. To be fair, it didn't sound like it was about to be destroyed. It sounded quite solid. I don't know, hitting your face isn't quite ideal. And one thing not sure if I've ever noticed it before, or yeah, I'm assuming they might do this in real life unless there's some sort of sound barriers in a helicopter. I suppose it makes sense to use headphones and microphones. I just never realized they do that though. Because it's one thing one might learn even from a sports movie. Yeah, it's no relation to sports, but something I guess. Yeah. Also, DuPont, I thought DuPont was involved in some sort of controversial court case, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, what do you know? Similar to what happened in Tommy's honor, this guy is also fraternizing, I guess you could say, or I suppose will be entering into some sort of professional relationship with someone wealthy, presumably for the same reasons as Tommy's honor, so for their profession, presumably the same ramifications with regards to cuts and such. It's all business. Happened in one outs as well, except they kept trying to one up them. They kept trying to what's the word? Just just be more clever than one another and such. Which was a good game if only I knew how baseball worked there. But, yeah. So yeah, apparently that Dupont guy is both a coach, wrestler coach, and an ornithologist. Huh. So let's see. In his ideal world, do birds wrestle each other or something? Does he teach them how to wrestle? Oh. And the first slight bit of comedy comes at nearly the 28-minute mark. Yeah, in the so-called commode with a picture of a lady just looking derisively, as if saying, "Yeah, yeah, just go on, keep going." Uh, who? I mean, it's one thing to put pictures all over the house, but there too of a person. Sometimes I wonder whether they have this obsession. Well, the people especially seem to have this obsession with having pictures of humans mostly. I mean, landscapes are really the best, I think. But many of these seem to have this obsession, but in a commode as well. Like I don't know who it might have been, but I don't cannot imagine anyone. Like whether she was the mother or the fiance or the sibling. I mean, it's bizarre to put it. While you're doing stuff, it's just at least put some sort of landscape. Just great rolling hills. I can see rolling hills despite being in a commode. Just what was the point? Anyway, yeah, for this movie at any rate, it's comedic. He even looks at her in real life, though, which is bizarre, really. And by the way, that guy was asking a lot of personal questions, weren't he? How is like the divorce relevant to whatever he was doing? His wrestling. What does it matter? Or even the fact that he doesn't own property. I mean, oh, you can be a good wrestler, but you're disqualified because you don't own property. It makes no sense. I mean, whatever. But, you know, um, at some point after they have an hour mark, yeah, it makes it seem like this movie is almost a an advert for the Ponds, which is absurd. Really. I mean, and they claim to be the wealthiest family. Obviously, that's not true now, but I don't know if it was for a long time. Yeah, I'm starting to suspect they sponsored this. I mean, that propaganda documentary didn't go on for very long, but I guess it went on for sufficient length. So it's a bit bizarre. I don't know. Oh, and it's kind of ironic, funny, adjective one can use. That after he was told to give the old lady some privacy, he went out with binoculars to see from a distance. Yeah, it's kind of the opposite, isn't it? All right, so I like the fact that Dupont at least understood the situation as soon as he saw, Dave's family. That's so I suppose I know this is probably sponsored by them, but well, if it really happened, I mean, at least they can understand. I mean, why they wouldn't want a family uprooted, I suppose. I mean, it's much more difficult with a family than an individual just relocating. It's strange feel how they went from uh, arguing about interpersonal sort of political relations, I guess, and then he just left the room, and then suddenly it's coaching tips apparently from his brother. It's a weird transition. I thought they were just arguing for a bit more or something. Um, it's kind of ironic that they call his brother, well, his big brother, only in terms of age. That at one point they called Mark his little brother. I mean, he is like one third the size, the one third more the size of him, of his brother. So it's a bit bizarre to, in terms of age, I guess. But when terms like big and little are used, they don't make much sense when they're physically, the opposite. But yeah, what do you know? He was only understanding of Dave's situation temporarily. Seems like he has an unstable personality, as most such people do, possibly. I don't know. I mean, if he really likes the sport, then by all means, be interested. But to go further than that, I mean, he thinks he can buy someone, he can buy the uprooting of someone, and that doesn't work very well. And if he really considers Mark a friend, violence is not used among friends or anything. And what makes it worse is that it seems like his unstable personality stems from, you know, his mother's rejection of the sport. I mean, who cares, right? And it, it clearly is the cause, but people don't like the same things, but they can't really end up being violent just because their mother doesn't like the same thing. That's absurd. Uh, it's stupid to really uh, have such dysfunctional social interactions that you know each every small thing reverberates to something bigger, and yet it transfers. So and this movie clearly his mother's dislike of wrestling made him unstable and violent, and that obviously pissed Mark off, and then he ended up shouting when he was conversing with his brother, and that's upset. And yet he wouldn't tell him what's up with their uh, interaction. What's wrong with his interaction with DuPont, and which was the reason why he ended up shouting and why he's annoyed at everything. I mean, may as well be open. I mean, it's such a weird consequence, isn't it? For you know, so he holds back, and then he just he's still open in a way. I mean, it comes across in his shouting that something is wrong, but he's shouting at the wrong person. Clearly, I mean, he was still angry with the Paul, getting his arm off him, but maybe not quite as much as shouting. It's shouting against someone, who didn't do anything. Yeah. Anyway, it's really dysfunctional social relations, which everyone can end up in, not just sports people. But I don't know, maybe sports people having this sort of cultural thing might end up thinking that they need to hold back in order for something, but then there's no holding back. The anger will inevitably spill over. Um, but it's kind of funny seeing his mother grimacing. I'm not sure why I assume he wants her to just observe his coaching for a while, but she really doesn't seem to like it at all, no matter what. Uh, and I just realized that when she said that it's a low spot, she was obviously. I'm assuming she didn't mean it literally, but it can also mean literally. I mean, it's a sport that can be done from a very low level, more than anything else. I think as well. I mean, in the scene when she's grimacing, he is literally face down on the floor. So yeah, I really don't know any other sport where they go face down. Nope. I mean, there's Twister, but that's a game sport. Anyway, by the way, before watching this movie, I had no idea they even had teams in wrestling. I mean, it's not very obvious. It's usually 1-to-1. Um, you know. Uh, so yeah, I really know nothing about this and have very little interest in a way. I'm like the mother, but I don't mind watching a movie. I mean, if I have little interest, I'm not going to participate or anything. So yeah, I mean, this is 2 hours is already a bit too much. But to participate in the sport, you obviously need many more hours. That's not certainly not something one would do if one isn't interested. So yeah, I guess this guy is very interested. So much more than horse riding, it seems. I don't think I've ever seen anyone ride a horse actually. 'Cause there's just horses around, but no one seems to ride them. I don't know if I mean this honestly happens with figure stuff. Like, it looks like I mean when he vomited at first I thought he was sick, but no, then later scenes seem to indicate that his brother was urging him to lose weight, which is absurd, I suppose, in this sense. I mean, if the strict weight categories, then I guess it makes sense. But it's sort of like bulimia and sports, in combination, bulimia and competition. It's never thought it existed, but I suppose. So I'm assuming just um, and yeah that head smash in the mirror was awful. I mean, it could have been much worse. It didn't seem to be that bad, but veins could have been cut. And by the way, that's some bizarre PR nonsense there at the end. It's not documentary. Documentaries are supposed to document real life. That's just scripting without a script. I mean, clearly he doesn't want to say whatever keywords he wanted him to say. I mean, what's the point of forcing him to? Makes no sense. And yeah, truly, when one watches oneself on a TV, one has failed, I suppose. I mean, he's just watching himself after presumably Seal was lost. I don't know why else he'd just leave otherwise, but well, he was going to leave anyway. Yeah, it's very ironic. He said, hope to develop athletes in mind, especially when, clearly it all began going downwards after he became violent. I mean, what's the point of that? Violence never solved anything. Certainly doesn't ameliorate anything in terms of psychology. By the way, how can someone be both a father and a brother? Makes no sense. You might as well be a mother and sister at the same time, huh? Clearly, he's interested in PR much more than actual results. And yeah, I finished it, and I think um, well, I read some things about the Bourne family. I didn't quite associate it with wrestling or even firearms or chemistry they mentioned. But yeah, I did read something, so I guess I could have expected something at the end, but didn't because I didn't think it had anything to do with wrestling. But I guess one could surmise that, I mean, an unstable personality can go two ways, I suppose. You know, can either get more unstable or less, I guess. Well, that goes for every personality, I suppose. Yeah, it's otherwise it's quite bizarre. I mean, you know, uh, if you like a sport, sure, just like it, but why go overboard in a way? It's just a sport. I mean, who cares ultimately? I suppose it's better to just take a hands-off approach to everything. At least the horses weren't harmed. Um, otherwise, though, uh, it's a mediocre film, but it's based on real life, so I guess it's mediocre. Life can be mediocre as well. Uh, but yeah, sometimes not uploading is better. It's and the thing that he died in prison apparently did. I didn't quite. I thought it went some other way about he couldn't quit or something. I need to read about it. Anyway, yeah, it's whatever really. I I'm kind of neutral about it. So in a way, this turned out to be a sort of crime drama, except most of it is a sport drama. Not quite as just dramatic as something like Tony Zone or such. But well, actually, that had a bit of drama at the end as well. Yeah, as it did in real life, I suppose. Yeah, they're both based in real life. So yeah, I don't mind just watching random movies, but I'm going to come out of them thinking, oh, this was the best thing ever or anything. I mean, it's I suppose ultimately it does depend on whether someone, the viewers like the sport a lot or not. I don't know how many people out there watch such movies if they don't like the sport, or assuming there are some who do, despite yeah. I try to be slightly objective. I mean, this wasn't just about the sport. It was something about some other things, but there's like there was so many things missing. Kind of like how they held back from saying what the problem was, and such. The film sort of held back as well on some things. I don't know, maybe they are just simulating real life after all. But I don't know. It still feels like it's missing something. I mean, it didn't feel like it didn't feel like something like, I mean, A Beautiful Mind is also a biography about a mathematician instead of a wrestler, but and it's not like I'm a mathematician myself, but I could relate to it more somehow. And it was told much more intensely. I mean, sure, it's about mental illness in a way. This was as well, though, but it's told in a much more dry manner, I suppose. I don't know. Just ultimately, it just depends on however events went down. I mean, these events didn't happen just so uh, they could be filmed. I mean, they were, but I suppose that was the original intention. Uh, but yeah, whatever. Ultimately, it's one of those things that you happen to watch, and I don't know. Yeah, It's mixed feelings really, but